Good morning, Armor Down. Ben King here. Today we are going to discuss a little bit about the predictive mind at war, and then we're going to go through four bells. So, one of the things that I remember very clearly from training to get ready to go to Iraq was a kind of clarity that came from the kind of craziness or the whirlwind of just a staged combat environment. So part of what you do when you get prepared to be deployed is you go through these different mock scenarios that have they're as realistic as possible. They have actors that play the role as civilians and enemy combatants. You use blanks. There's all kinds of different simulators that are used. And so anyway, you kind of go into a scenario, and as you're in the scenario, you kind of walk into the scenario, and then if you build on this idea of the predictive mind, you walk into the scenario, and there's just this constant kind of anticipation, just this readiness for something to go on, but you don't quite know what to expect. So there's what I experienced during these moments was this anticipation and then this kind of flat emptiness, a quiet even. And then the moment would begin, something would happen, and then it would just be movement, activation, this, that, all these other kind of things. And it was just very, very fast. And one of the things I remember was my mind was quiet. I remember my mind being empty of just all the stuff I typically worry about. And I really enjoyed that. And so then, we get to Iraq. And in Iraq, the experience again was one of a kind of a quiet again, all the typical things that show up in the mind as analysis for the future, making sure X, Y, and Z is done, all those kinds of things, rent, healthcare, education, all those things, they just get kind of quiet. And that experience was really nice. It was a nice kind of quiet experience. And so as I've been thinking about imagining putting myself in the space of all those warriors on the battlefield in Ukraine getting ready for the latest wave of kind of the Russian onset, I think about what they must be experiencing. I think about how their focus is on survival. I think about how their experience of time must be totally different. I think about how the values that are now at the forefront of everything are now so clear. The value of having that person in your foxhole or in your burned out building or whatever that can make jokes. How funny those jokes must be right now. The value of food, just any kind of food that you have, just how much you would probably treasure that food and appreciate its sustenance. The moments of looking at an image, looking at a picture of a loved one, and how much that probably touches that person. Then the experience of preparing to kill, preparing to destroy, watching your sectors of fire, envisioning the terror of the enemy breaking through your lines, the quiet moments, the waiting. I think about that, and right now I kind of think about it in the context of compassion. And so what I want to do is I want to go through four bells. I want to send compassion that way. So, all right, let's practice. senses. Sound, touch, sight picture, smell, taste, ground beneath you, pelvis, hips, core, heart space, throat, top of the head. Location of breath. Location of the beginning of the breath. So the beginning of the inhale. Notice where the beginning of the inhale takes place. The end of the exhale. Now notice the end of the exhale. Notice the relationship between the beginning of the inhale and the expansion of the inhale. So it's the beginning, the breath coming in, the expansion of the breath coming in, and then the end of the expansion, the beginning of the exhale. And then the path out. So the path of the exhale disappearing, the space of the exhale disappearing, the path of the exhale. The movement associated with the inhale, the movement associated with the exhale. The mind focused on these 2 points exclusively stops the predictive mind. Now, the predictive mind will show up based on the fullness of your concentration, but if you can stay focused on just the experience of the breath coming in, expanding, breath going out, disappearing, you're disconnecting from the predictive process. Now, the predictive process doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. The brain continues creating the world around you, putting the pieces together. But the mind, the thing that comes out of the brain, the mind, stays fixated on something happening in the moment. Sensation, heart space. Visualize heart expressing goodwill. Each beating of the heart sending out goodwill. Give your goodwill, your goodness, some form of expression. And then a capacity to move. Maybe it's sparks of light, beams of light. Maybe it's a force field. Whatever you want to visualize your heart doing as beyond yourself. Goodwill artillery rounds. I'm envisioning each beat of my heart sending little rounds of goodwill up and over the Atlantic Ocean, all the way over Europe, and then landing amongst all the soldiers on the front lines. In my mind, I'm visualizing concrete, gray, brown, black, twisted. I'm seeing moments of smiles and jokes, shared cigarettes, shared dip, shared food, shared candy bars, crackers, camaraderie, fear, sadness. And I'm visualizing my rounds of goodwill landing in the middle and sending out sparks of goodwill, optimism. I'm visualizing myself there. I can feel my heart now. I feel a little bit of emotion now. I feel opening in the throat now. Two rounds, finish up. It's what I notice about the mind. So I've got this brain. I know the brain is doing all this kind of stuff without my awareness, unconscious stuff it's the predictive brain, right? I know my mind is this thing that ego is a name, whatever name you want. It's almost like the ghost of my brain is my mind. The thing that kind of has access to all these other things, but is the thing out of the whole, the massive whole of consciousness, that little thing that I've got, the mind. And before, the mind just did whatever it wanted, and now the mind moves how I want it to. It even disappears and diffuses if I want it to, or it zeroes in and focuses in if I want it to. It's now mine. It's my mind. Just sent it to Ukraine. All right, we're down. That's Tuesday. See you Thursday.